Okay, so now that we know the different structures within a cell, all these structures need to be replicated in some extent during a process called cell division. Okay, without cell division, we can't do a number of different things, and there's two types of cell division. Um, so cell division is important for reproduction or reproducing progeny. Um, if it wasn't for cell division, we wouldn't be around, right? Because we come from two gamete cells, or a sperm cell and an egg, okay, and they come together and they actually create one whole cell, and then through a process of cell division, many of times, what happens is we get a multicellular unit like ourselves. So we come from one cell. So without that, we don't have anything. We wouldn't be around. So cell division is an extremely important function for life on Earth. Okay, so there's two types of reproduction that can occur in a cell division. The first one is asexual reproduction. Okay, asexual reproduction is offsprings are produced from one parent only. Okay, so you have one parent cell and it produces two genetically identical to the parent cells. Okay, for example, simple organisms like bacteria and most of our body cells are through this process right here. Okay, so you have one cell, the cell starts to create two nucleuses, and then ultimately it splits and separates, and that's asexual reproduction. Okay, and then you have sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction is the is actually two cells coming together or fusing together. These cells are known as gametes, and they're also known as sex cells. Okay, a sperm and an egg cell come together, one from one parent, one from another parent. They all have 23 They both have 23 chromosomes each. They come together to form one 46 chromosome cell that will ultimately multiply many times, like I said before, to create you as a person. Okay, so new organisms have genetic information from both parents, and then you go into asexual. So we start off as sexual reproduction, where gametes fuse together to form the one parent cell, and then we go into asexual reproduction, where that one parent cell multiplies over and over and over again. So first you have one, and then you have two, and then you have six. Okay, and it just keeps going and going and going and going. Okay, the reason why we also need cell division is for cell growth. Okay, cells have a maximum size before they need to replicate. So ultimately, what happens is you can't have one cell. This nucleus is not strong enough, and there's not enough material or organelles inside this one cell to provide all the necessities needed for this one large cell. So what happens is you get many different cells. Okay, you can think of this as like your muscles. Okay, your muscles will go through processes like this as they get larger and larger and larger. And there's a large body of evidence that shows that muscle growth can lead to increased muscle cell numbers. So it's not just the muscle cell size that grows; it's the muscle cell numbers that grows as well. Okay, as your muscles get larger. So many small cells equal greater surface area, and that makes sense, right? So with our muscles, if we think of our muscles, we want as much oxygen and nutrients going to the muscles. So if we have one large cell, it's lower amounts of surface area because you can only really touch the four surf the you can only really touch the outsides of the cell. Whereas if you have many smaller cells, there's lots of blood vessels that can support and supply oxygen and nutrients to each and every one of these cells. Okay. Diffusion of necessary chemicals happens more quickly with less distance to travel. Okay, like I said, so say if we have a blood vessel that forms on this side of the cell right here, okay, if it needs to get to the nucleus, so the oxygen or nutrients needs to get to the nucleus or into the middle of the cell, it has a lot larger way to go, okay, as opposed to if you have a smaller cell. So many smaller cells have more surface area decreases diffusion distance, decrease in diffusion distance makes it makes it all happen more quickly. Okay, it makes oxygen getting to your muscles more quickly. And your muscles are just an example that I'm using right now. This happens in many different cells around the body, but the muscle is probably the easiest to envision. Okay. Um, So we also have something called osmosis. So osmosis is the fusion of water in order to balance concentration of materials in and out of the cell. So you have high concentration of material on this side, okay, and it moves to an area of lower concentration. Okay, it's actually the fusion of water, not necessarily the the so not necessarily of the concentration of the material. So this one you have high concentration, okay, because if you have a high concentration of some sort of material, in this area you obviously have a low concentration. So there's a lot of water in this area, there's less water in this area, okay, and more material. So you can think of osmosis as the movement of water, okay, to balance out the concentration of material. Okay, so on this side we have 6 pieces of material. On this side we have 6 pieces of material as well. Okay, and in total there's 5 water molecules on this side, 5 water. Okay, there's originally 10 molecules of water on this side. The water will transport down over to this side, okay, through osmosis to balance out that concentration. So there's now there's equal concentration between the two sides. Okay, whereas right now there's a low concentration on this side, high concentration on this side. So water will move over to balance out to balance this concentration gradient out. Okay. It's also available for repair. Dead or damaged cells need to be replaced. For example, the body sheds millions of skin cells a day. Okay, and so you need to replace that. So it needs repair. So if you get a cut, what happens is you go through a lot of cell regeneration in order to create the scab and ultimately create a new layer of skin. All right, guys, if you have any questions, just let me know. Biology is the only science where multiplication and division mean the same thing. Take a look at homework, page 37, 1 to 6.